Hi, and welcome back to another daily dose of anime recaps. In this episode, we shall be covering the manga The Hero Returns. In his previous life, Kim Soo Hyun reluctantly became an unexpected hero, carrying the desperate pleas for help from millions of people. As the most powerful awakened being, he fought alone against countless dungeon monsters during the end of the world. When humanity's last hope faded, Sung In was luckily reborn as Kim Soo Hyun, a young man, and given the chance to go back in time 20 years. In this second life, will he choose to continue the lonely path of a hero or try to change the future and prevent the impending doomsday? Are you ready to experience it all? Join us in the thrilling story of The Hero Returns and uncover its captivating tale. And if you love this video, don't forget to destroy the like, subscribe button and comment below to let us know how much you liked it. Year 2042, the world came to an end. After dungeons started to appear in different places all over the world, monsters started to pour out of dungeons that weren't being cleared and started to invade reality. This phenomenon was named the Outbreak, and it destroyed the world's peace mercilessly. But, on the other hand, there were humans who appeared with the power to fight against the disaster. People all over the world called them the Awakened. Kim Soo Hyun was one of the Awakened. After all, humans have died. He was the last one standing and continued fighting against the monsters. But overwhelmed by their numbers, he was defeated. When he woke up again, he realized he was no longer the last survivor of humanity. Kim Soo Hyun, but a weak and bullied teenager named Kim Soo Hyun. Today, after a brawl with his classmates, Soo Hyun left the police station with his new mother. As they wandered around the park, they were suddenly attacked by a werewolf. Soo Hyun realized it was 2022, the time where the rate of outbreak happening was constantly on the higher end. So, it's not impossible for monsters to appear in the middle of a city. Using an umbrella as a weapon, Soo Hyun bravely confronted the creatures. However, without his previous awakened powers, he struggled to match their strength. While grappling with one werewolf, another lunged at him. Just when it seemed hopeless, Soo Hyun's mother rushed in to protect him. Seizing the opportunity, Soo Hyun kicked the werewolf away and quickly approached the woman to assess the situation. He glanced at the unfamiliar woman who had just risked her life for him, and a fierce determination emanated from him. With a stern look, he boldly asked the creatures, "Do you guys have a death wish?" Remarkably, those few words made the two werewolves immediately retreat. With the threat gone, Soo Hyun used the address note from his wallet to take his mother home to rest. After settling her comfortably on the sofa, he looked down at his own hands. He couldn't help but question why he was so weak. Was I really reborn into such a useless being just to repeat my past mistakes? Lost in thought, Soo Hyun was suddenly startled by the appearance of an abyss door and a guidance system. An abyss door has opened. This body must have some talent as an awakened. Without hesitation, Soo Hyun stepped through the door, greeted by a resonant voice welcoming him to the Tower of Trials. About this strange tower, once a person is able to clear the first floor of this tower, they earn the qualified captions to become the Awakened. They will gradually become stronger by clearing the trials of higher floors. Soo Hyun chose the toughest level to conquer because even though it's the same one's floor, the higher the level, the stronger the enemies, the greater the reward. The scenery quickly changed around him. In his past life, he could only go as far as level 8. But in this new life, he wanted to be even stronger. Otherwise, his fate would be the same, defeated by the powerful monster Fafnir. Thanks to his past experience, Soo Hyun successfully advanced levels within a short time. Now, as a level 10 awakened, the real battle begins. Upon stepping out of the level 1 door, Soo Hyun quickly claimed the top position on the leaderboard among the newly awakened with an impressive score of 2,230 points, while second place hadn't even reached 1,000 points. To progress through the upcoming levels, he needed to acquire certain items. Drawing from his past memories, Soo Hyun entered a shop where Veli, a skill merchant, warmly welcomed him. Having encountered her before, Soo Hyun saw the way she seduced her customers to get them to the impulse shop didn't change. But it didn't work. He already decided what he wanted to buy. Soo Hyun confidently stated, "I want to buy the leap skill and the transformation skill." Veli hesitated and asked, "But can you buy it? The leap is 150 points, and the transformation is 1,000 points." Soo Hyun didn't say a word and immediately reached the required points. Holy moly! Veli couldn't contain her astonishment and shouted in disbelief, slamming the table. In all her trading days, she had never encountered someone who had scored over 1,000 points while still at level 1. It was clear that this young man was out of her mind. Soo Hyun had no time to spare, so he didn't bother explaining. After getting what he wanted, he left and sat on a bench to activate his new skills and review everything at once. "Excuse me? Can I speak to you for just a moment?" A young man's voice rang in Soo Hyun's ear. As he turned around, memories of a familiar figure named Choi Hak-jun flooded back. Choi Hak-jun was a genius amongst the awakened within the abyss. But in the near future, he becomes the main culprit of the massacre of a big guild. He had been following Soo Hyun ever since Soo Hyun was at the store. He approached Soo Hyun and asked if Soo Hyun wanted to be in a party together. But Soo Hyun declined. He had reached level 10 while Hak-jun was only at level 8, so teaming up didn't make sense. He preferred to play solo and collect plenty of valuable items. The system announced that level 10 of floor 2 had opened. The context was that Soo Hyun had escaped with the treasure of the Charles clan, and the angry Charles clan would come after him in order to get their treasure back. The challenge was set: escape with the treasure and survive in this forest. Soo Hyun hid atop a tall tree, while the clan pursuers searched diligently below. Upon reflecting on the 4 words "survive in this forest," Soo Hyun understood that he had to get rid of everything in the forest. He then quickly activated his speed boost skill and started attacking the monsters in front of him. Being an experienced player, he easily defeated the low-level creatures in no time. Soon, the boss of floor 2 appeared. Soo Hyun had been waiting for this moment and swiftly jumped into the air, activated his speed boost, and unleashed a flurry of attacks, defeating the boss in an instant. As a reward for conquering floor 2, Soo Hyun received a valuable heirloom necklace of the Charles clan. It can heals all the injuries and removes all the status ailments affecting the player, but it only has 5 uses remaining. Using his transformation skill, Soo Hyun absorbed the power of Berserker after defeating the Charles clan's head. With his current strength, there seemed to be nothing that could defeat Soo Hyun. Feeling hungry, he decided to return home instead of wandering through the floors and exhausting himself. As soon as Soo Hyun stepped out of his room, he found a table set with a deliciously fragrant meal. His mother had prepared everything to thank him for saving her life. Feeling touched, Soo Hyun savored every bite of the meal. Even if he wasn't her biological son, he was determined to protect his mother with all his might. 1 year later, on Saturday, December 7, Soo Hyun left home with the reason of wanting to take a break after a tough semester exam. The plan to conquer floor 10 was about to begin, but he didn't know how long it would last. So there's no better excuse than a vacation to get away from home. Seo Hyun remembered that the green dungeon that would appear in Anyang in a year's time is a large-scale break and the first incident where humanity is threatened. And soon after that, there would be the Gyeonggi-do incident on New Year's. Soo Hyun looked at the fiery red sunset, straining his eyes and whispered, "I'm going to change them. This time, I'll definitely protect it." Soo Hyun ventured alone towards the 10th floor of the Tower of Trials, where he met an elderly man resembling a beggar. Knowing the old man was the gatekeeper of this place, Soo Hyun willingly donated 5,000 achievement points to get valuable information about the upcoming location. According to the old man, information pertaining to the 10th floor was quite valuable, and the only advice he could offer was to be wary of the village chief. Soo Hyun nodded in satisfaction, continuing to move forward and selecting level 10 to conquer. the guidance system appeared, and this time the requirement was for him to find the aim of the trial to clear it and not die. Shortly after entering the virtual world, Soo Hyun had to rescue a child from a large pursuing lizard. However, something strange happened. When he returned the child to its mother, she didn't show any gratitude or welcome. Feeling dismissed, Soo Hyun wandered through the village, noticing the villagers' wary glances from a distance. Although they were extras known as NPCs, the way they looked and thought were frighteningly like real humans. No one would talk to him or come near him along the way. Feeling disheartened, he sat beside a large tree when suddenly the child he had saved earlier appeared. In gratitude, the child gave him some fruit, and in return, Soo Hyun shared his own food to get some information. It turned out that the villagers were cold because they were afraid their food would be stolen. While munching on the fruit, the child said, "My dad said that the village chief has been working hard to protect the village, and that we need to trust and help him. The monsters can't come into the village." The village chief did something to make it like that. Soo Hyun noticed something odd in the child's words, but before he could ask further, the village chief and another man approached him. The chief warned Soo Hyun that handing out food without permission could cause disharmony within the village and requested that he stop doing so without consent. The gatekeeper of the 10th floor had warned to be careful of this person. But in order to conquer the 10th floor, Soo Hyun decided to bring a bag of food from his storage and ask the village chief for permission to stay. Surprisingly, the chief agreed and allowed Soo Hyun to remain. Little did Soo Hyun know that in the chief's office, plans were being made for a sacrificial ceremony. The chief gave a hypnotic drug to a man and ordered him to make Soo Hyun unconscious for 3 days and then throw him to that thing underground on time. Under the village, there was a monster snake that only ate humans. However, this monster stopped other monsters from invading the village. The village chief believed that a little sacrifice was necessary for the sake of the village. He felt no regrets, seeing it as a hero's duty. 4 days later, the villagers pushed the unconscious Soo Hyun towards the sacrificial altar and threw him into an underground chamber where the monster lived and laid its eggs. The next day, the village chief cautiously approached to see where the monster had marked its territory. The heavy door to the underground opened, revealing a giant snake torn into pieces. Soo Hyun, alive and covered in blood, stood there with a sword in hand. He calmly asked the village chief, "What brings you all the way out here, village chief?" Seeing the dead snake, the chief got angry and blamed Soo Hyun for causing damage. He claimed that if the snake didn't mark its territory, the other monsters in the surrounding area would attack the village. Soo Hyun saw through the chief's words. Predatory feeding snakes spent most of its time outside of eating by just sleeping like a lazy bastard. Especially, it didn't consider the person who fed it to be its prey. Approaching the chief, he said that the chief played hero by feeding people from the village to this monster. But his hypocrisy ended here. Holding the snake's head, Soo Hyun revealed the truth to the crowd. He then scattered the snake eggs and suggested that the villagers nurture them while hunting other monsters for food. The villagers looked shocked, but Soo Hyun assured them that this approach would prevent further sacrifices in the future. Although it sounded promising, everyone believed they were mere farmers with only farming tools and couldn't possibly capture monsters. They passed the responsibility on to each other, avoiding taking it up themselves. Soo Hyun grew frustrated with their cowardly words and straightforwardly said, "Or you can give up everything and just keep feeding the villagers to them like before." Silence filled the air, but suddenly a timid voice emerged from behind a mother. The kid, despite his fear, expressed his willingness to help. His words sparked a flame of courage, and now no one dared to oppose Soo Hyun's idea. With each passing day, Soo Hyun gained the villagers' trust and began training them to fight the monsters. Soo Hyun killed a big worm. Checking the system progress, he noticed it was stuck at 90% with no changes. While wondering if the village chief was involved, the ground suddenly shook. Soon, the only predator of the predatory feeding snake appeared, called the divine bird of blue fire and known for its fiery attacks. The cunning chief had released the bird, hoping to gain admiration and control over the fearsome creature. But as the bird took flight, it engulfed the chief in flames, reducing him to ashes. Seeing the monster heading towards the village, Soo Hyun sensed trouble and immediately pursued it. He executed a skillful leap and struck with a swift swing, but his attack missed and he was knocked down from midair. But he refused to give up. Using a rope tied to his sword, he leaped back into the air, ready to face the beast. By ensnaring the bird's beak with the rope, Soo Hyun closed in for combat, harnessing his transformation skill to intimate the bird's abilities. He prepared to fight fire with fire. Soo Hyun, determined and ablaze, tried to control the monster's intense heat. But copying its abilities didn't work as his level was too low to inflict damage on it. The rope burned, and Soo Hyun felt the scorching fire affecting his body. In a crucial moment, his fighting spirit surged again. He activated the recovery item Charles treasured just in time to heal his wounds. With a renewed aura, Soo Hyun gripped his sword and thrust it forcefully into the monster's back, shouting fiercely, "Now, just die!" An explosion boomed, filling the air with dust. The monster bird was dead, and Soo Hyun was injured. When Soo Hyun regained his senses, the battle had come to an end. Awakened Certification Authority is associated with the government, and it is a place where the Awakened can get their rank examined. In order to enter the dungeons, the Awakened needs to get a rank from the authority. The revenue earned by the Awakened will vary depending on the rank that they are given. A few days after leaving the 10th floor of the tower, Soo Hyun went to the authority to receive a new rank. He coincidentally saw Hak Jun there and greeted him. "I first met you on the 2nd floor, but do you remember me?" Hak Jun was surprised but happy to see a familiar face. They sat together and chatted while waiting. However, before they could introduce themselves, Hak Jun was called for his assessment. As expected, despite being young, Hak Jun already had 44 mana points, earning him a B rank. Next up was Kim Soo Hyun, whose name created a buzz of excitement in the entire room. Soo Hyun put his hand on the mana measuring tool as instructed. In an instant, his power surged, leaving Hak Jun amazed. Unassociated Kim Soo Hyun Nim, rank 3, load 29 C rank, the announcement declared. Hak Jun couldn't believe it. He had sensed Soo Hyun's power was much higher, possibly even a rank or higher. Hak Jun's emotions quickly shifted as he considered the possibility of his wrong senses. There's no way for one to purposely control what rank and load they get. Even if he's a genius, it's something only doable by world-class awakened people. Meanwhile, Soo Hyun obtained his awakened identification card and left the hall, sweat on his face. He couldn't help but feel disappointed. Despite his efforts to control his mana, he accidentally revealed his true strength for a brief moment. Lost in thought about life and its complexities, Soo Hyun stood there when Hak Jun approached. Still caught up in the events of the hall, Hak Jun wanted to talk to Soo Hyun to clarify things. But before he could say anything, a disruptive D-rank troublemaker interrupted them. However, his disruption was swiftly dealt with by Jong Dong-young, leaving no trace of his presence. Approaching Soo Hyun, Jong Dong-young wanted to personally verify his identity. As the guild master of Ares Guild, he introduced himself and asked for Soo Hyun's surname. "Kim Soo Hyun," he said. Initially, Jong Dong-young was delighted, thinking he had found the person he was looking for. However, his enthusiasm quickly faded upon seeing Soo Hyun's C-rank identification card. "I'm not interested. Even if I am that Kim Soo Hyun of the rumors, I will never join your guild," he stated. Soo Hyun made it clear that he despised the act of killing others without reason. In contrast, Jong Dong-young took pride in his guild's power, which allowed him to escape any wrongdoing. Their conflicting ideologies quickly put an end to their conversation. Jong Dong-young and Hak Jun left, but Soo Hyun intercepted them. He discreetly handed Hak Jun a piece of paper and told him to contact him anytime for help, before stepping aside to let them pass. Time passed, and on January 1, 2024, in Gyeonggi, Gwangju, Soo Hyun joined the Gwangju team for Orange Dungeon raids. He joined because he knew that everyone here would die soon, and what caught his attention was that only 5 out of the 6 members were confirmed dead. This time, his objective was to find the culprit behind that murder. As they entered the dungeon, a green cyclops attacked them. Soo Hyun realized something was wrong because that kind of monster only came out in yellow or higher dungeons, not here. It meant that the dungeon had leveled up. The team was chaotic when the cyclops swung its weapon at them. Joho, the team captain and the only B-rank member, tried to defend but couldn't withstand the attack. In that critical moment, Soo Hyun stepped in and blocked a surprise punch, surprising everyone. Soo Hyun explained that the dungeon had transformed. The way in is blocked. They had to get a hold of themselves and not wait for miracles. Just as they received the news of the level growth dungeon, the dungeon shook. They realized they were in deep trouble, especially with the Cyclops and other strange creatures approaching. They wondered what to do. "Leave the Cyclops to me," Soo Hyun confidently declared. With his combat experience, he knew what to do. Usually, a Cyclops' weakness is their hidden eye. Soo Hyun jumped up, kicked the creature's wrist, and then swiftly stabbed its palm with his sword. The reason behind this action was that the Cyclops tightly held its weapon, not just for attacking but also to defend. "Soo Hyun, look out," a teammate warned. Just as the warning was given, Soo Hyun was caught by the Cyclops' massive right hand. In a moment of distraction, Soo Hyun couldn't dodge in time. Surprisingly, the Cyclops' real eye was on the other hand, not on the hand it was holding the weapon with. The Cyclops clapped its hands together, and everyone thought Soo Hyun would be the first to perish. But a miraculous twist occurred. Not only did Soo Hyun manage to escape, but he also soared high into the air, thanks to his quick transformation skills. Filled with determination, he landed and swiftly defeated a group of weaker monsters with precise strikes. Not stopping there, he sidestepped behind the Cyclops and delivered a powerful blow to its head. Finally, he unleashed a barrage of blades, reducing the unfortunate Cyclops into countless tiny pieces. With the task complete, Joho approached Soo Hyun and requested a conversation. Soo Hyun happily agreed, his gaze undergoing a strange change. No one knew what they said, but they had to keep going. A big door suddenly blocked their way, and they entered inside. A system display appeared, announcing the start of the dungeon trial. They had 2 options. The first trial was to fight monsters. The door at the back will keep summoning monsters for 30 minutes. The second trial was to open the door on the opposite side and run from monsters for 30 minutes. The summoned monsters would chase after all of them. They must choose within 10 minutes. If they didn't open any of the doors, the trial would be chosen at random. The team debated between fighting and running away. Joho asked Soo Hyun for his opinion, recognizing that their success thus far had been largely thanks to him. "I think that it'd be better for us to fight," Soo Hyun said. Joho agreed, and they got into formation to prepare for battle. The door opened, and monsters attacked from all sides. As they fought hard, another door opened, revealing a mysterious person who had triggered a trap and died. The system announced, "The first route has been forcibly closed. You will restart on the second route after 10 minutes. Move past the gate and safely escape to the exit." While others wanted to change their choice and escape, only Soo Hyun and Joho insisted on fighting. It took a few minutes to convince the others and tell them to follow the system's instructions. As everyone left, only Soo Hyun and Kim Hyun remained. Despite Kim Hyun's protests, Joho firmly closed the door as instructed by Soo Hyun to prevent her from escaping. Now, Soo Hyun revealed his sword and cut a piece of Yoon's garment, exposing a tattoo on her shoulder. He stated that she was with the Dump Guild, the worst group of murders that threatened humanity almost as much as the outbreak. Realizing she was exposed, Yoon tried to use her sneak skill to escape, but Soo Hyun said, "I wonder if that skill will be able to erase the scent of blood coming from your body. It was too late for Yoon as the monsters arrived, and the villain met a quick end. Joho led the others far away, but he couldn't stop thinking about his conversation with Soo Hyun and all that Soo Hyun had done for them. So, he made a decision to turn back and help. When the heavy doors opened, Joho was met with a terrifying sight. The monsters had been completely burned, and there was only one person responsible. Soo Hyun asked, "Why did you come back?" "I'm sure I told you to get out of this place." Joho apologized, scratching his head awkwardly. Despite rushing back, he was of no help at all. Just then, a golden portal appeared, and the final dungeon boss emerged. It was a skeletal figure holding a staff with magical gems. It introduced itself as a lich, the Dark Priest, not just a skeleton monster. Soo Hyun didn't care about its name and immediately started hurling insults. Half failure, decalcomany, half off sale. As the conversation escalated, the lich got angry and commanded the reanimated corpses to attack them. Realizing that this battle was meant for him alone, Soo Hyun used his divine flames to create a protective circle around Joho and fearlessly charged toward the boss. The boss could fly, so Soo Hyun's first sword strike missed. Undeterred, Soo Hyun continued to swiftly swing his sword, but the opponent shifted upwards and unleashed death energy towards him. Soo Hyun fought back with divine flames, the bane of death energies. However, the lich managed to evade it once more. Joho stood within the protective circle, observing his comrades in battle. Unwilling to remain a mere bystander, he stepped out of the circle and joined the fight. Seeing Joho's unwillingness to stand aside, Soo Hyun smiled and decided to change his plan and team up with Joho. They charged forward together, with Soo Hyun taking care of the surrounding monsters while Joho targeted the boss. Soo Hyun unleashed divine flames, guided by Joho, towards the boss. Joho used Tempest Sword to deliver a powerful strike to the lich's back, momentarily staggering it. As Joho started to fall, Soo Hyun supported him with their sword, lifting him back up. The lich retaliated with a blast of death energy, sending Joho flying. Seizing the opportunity, Soo Hyun struck the lich's head with a powerful blow. To the lich's surprise, the sword shattered, but Joho appeared behind it with another sword. Joho swiftly struck the lich, cleaving it in two and destroying the gem on its forehead. They conquered the dungeon, then quickly made it back out and took refuge behind a roadside bush. Everyone except the unlucky pair was safe. Joho promised to take care of the remaining issues and vowed to share his reward with Soo Hyun for completing the dungeon, recognizing his deserving efforts. To keep Soo Hyun from being discovered, Joho kindly called a taxi to discreetly take him away from the scene. Soo Hyun went back home after selling all his rewards and having a substantial amount of money in his account. He didn't want his mother to struggle in a dangerous job anymore. So that night he decided to tell her the truth about being an awakened. He sat down with his mother and explained that he had earned enough to provide them with a more stable life. He encouraged her to quit her job, highlighting the results of his hard work over the past year. After finishing dinner, Soo Hyun went to his room and started thinking about climbing the tower again. But before that, he needed to get a new weapon. So he met his old friend, the weapon master craftsman Kim Dae-ho. That person didn't recognize him. Using his knowledge, Soo Hyun convinced Kim Dae-ho to open the door and presented the highest grade ether stone he obtained from the golden dungeon. Kim Dae-ho, without questioning much, happily agreed to create a free sword in exchange for the stone. It would take about 10 months to complete. Kim Dae-ho also offered Soo Hyun to choose any other weapon he needed. Soo Hyun returned to the tower and started his leveling journey. Time passed, and after 6 months, he realized it was time. Without hesitation, he picked up his phone and called his friend Joho. Soo Hyun asked his friend for 3 favors. First, he asked him to look into good places for an awakened to live near the Seoul suburbs. Second, he needed assistance in tracking down the Dump Guild for some information. And his final favor was for Joho to assist him on the upcoming tragedy, the outbreak of the Green Dungeon on December 24th in Yang City. Joho agreed to help without knowing the reasons. So, Soo Hyun had to complete the remaining 20 dungeon levels to gain enough power to face the outbreak. In the 19th floor trial, Soo Hyun was taken to a nest of rats. His task was to survive and escape. The hungry mice were numerous, and despite using holy flames, Soo Hyun couldn't defeat them all. He then noticed cracks and dents on the ground, and quickly used his sword to unleash holy flames and destroy the ground, getting rid of them all at once. Taking down the mice wasn't too difficult, but now the real trial was about to take place. After descending into the space underground, Soo Hyun discovered a massive architectural structure managed by a terrifying giant snake. Soo Hyun swung his weapon with great force, followed by a magical fire attack aimed at the snake's face, but it didn't have much of an effect. The snake, named Honey, not only has significant physical and magic resistance, but also incredibly fast. Soo Hyun, after being thrown against a wall, quickly came up with a plan. He landed a strong blow to the serpent's head, knowing it wouldn't defeat it, but would make it angry and chase him. Using his leap skill, he moved swiftly through the tunnel, attacking with precision. While dodging the serpent's attacks, Soo Hyun waited for the right moment. Eventually, the creature got caught in hanging ropes, leaving it vulnerable. Following Soo Hyun's command, the phoenix swiftly dived at the serpent, striking it with incredible speed. The creature turned into pieces with just one hit. With level 19 successfully completed, Soo Hyun now had to wait for his newly forged weapon before venturing into level 20. He expected more challenging obstacles similar to what he encountered on level 10. He called it Gram, another name for Balmung, both meaning a dragon-slaying sword. Soo Hyun quickly left Kim Dae-ho's house without even joining for a cup of tea, heading straight to the 20th floor of the challenge tower. Just like the previous floors, he encountered a gatekeeper as soon as he arrived. Since it was the 20th floor, Soo Hyun generously offered him 100,000 points in exchange for a vital piece of information. The gatekeeper's advice was clear: try not to kill if possible, and in any given situation, do what you have to do. Although Soo Hyun wanted more, that was all he could get from the guard. The objective of this floor was to collapse the castle of the Grandolum Kingdom, known as a steel-walled fortress. Soo Hyun had to find out the castle's secrets and stay alive. That night, Soo Hyun planned to seek shelter at the city gate. However, due to the impending war, he was denied entry. Instead of resorting to violence, Soo Hyun leaped into the air, astonishing everyone, and effortlessly split the enormous gate in two with a swift sword strike. The loud noise immediately caused a commotion in the fortress, and a crowd of soldiers quickly gathered. But it wasn't a problem for Soo Hyun, as he had Gram in his hand, a renowned sword that could slice everything. Soo Hyun skillfully bypassed the obstacles without harming anyone. With one swing, he sent gates flying, and with a powerful punch, he broke through walls, showcasing his unstoppable abilities. Commander Maxman appeared, demanding to handle Soo Hyun himself, but some loyal soldiers bravely tried to stop him. Realizing the importance of this uncle-like figure, Soo Hyun swiftly shifted his focus to him as his new target. Soo Hyun caught Maxman with a rope. He used his transformation skills, and through Captain Maxman, Yo Hyun will learn the secret of the castle, and he can pass the trial perfectly. After Soo Hyun captured Captain Maxman, he disappeared with the captain and Maxman's servants, and the soldiers were furious when Maxman was taken away, and they split up to search for Captain Maxman throughout the castle. The servant didn't forget to remind his teammates to defend the castle even when they were looking for Captain Maxman. Soo Hyun takes Maxman to another room to talk. Maxman is furious and thinks that Soo Hyun is a foreign spy and that Soo Hyun is trying to get information from him. Soo Hyun denies Maxman's accusation because if he was a spy, he would have directly destroyed the castle rather than having to take this time to get information from Maxman. Maxman also thinks that Soo Hyun is not lying because no one in this kingdom is capable of fencing with Maxman, but Soo Hyun is different. He is very strong. Maxman then took Soo Hyun to the prison to look for something. Maxman said that the prison was used 100 years ago, and they abandoned it, and built another prison to use. Soo Hyun suddenly asks Maxman about a dark place where the light can't light up because Soo Hyun senses the dangerous atmosphere around him. Suddenly, the king's guardian appears. He blames Maxmin for abandoning his position as captain in the midst of war. Not only that, but Maxmin also accompanies the person who broke into the castle. The attaché is talking when he is attacked and destroyed by Soo Hyun. Maxmin is alarmed to see it, but Soo Hyun explains that both the attaché and the king are just puppets who are actually monsters manipulating the country. The attaché, after being exposed, becomes aggressive and attacks to destroy Maxmin and Soo Hyun. The monster summoned two more similar to him, but Soo Hyun easily destroyed them with his ultimate sword. Although the sword was used by Soo Hyun with the best quality stone, it will not be easily broken. But Lich is a darkness attribute monster, so they probably will not be easily destroyed, unless it's a critical attack with a holy attribute skill or force. Although Maxman is also strong, he doesn't have divine attributes. Soo Hyun doesn't expect much from him either, so Soo Hyun has decided to use his divine flames to suppress it. Surprisingly, even if Soo Hyun uses his divine flames, he can't overpower the Lich's necrotic energy. His power is incomparably stronger than the Lich that Soo Hyun has ever met. Soo Hyun realizes that he can still live if he continues to use his divine flames, but he will lose mana, and that's no good, so he decides to target Lich Lifestone. The Lich moved very fast, and Soo Hyun couldn't reach his Lifestone. Not only that, but he also used the key from behind to stop Soo Hyun from approaching. Soo Hyun notices that something is wrong because Lich doesn't seem to be focused on attacking Soo Hyun, but he is carrying out a plan. As Soo Hyun predicted, Light could control the darkness remotely. He controlled the darkness to attack Maxman, but Soo Hyun managed to block the attack in time. From the darkness, two more leashes appeared, to Maxman's panic. Leashes that infiltrated into the castle, disguising themselves as the king's assistants. The other two leash are urging the Lich, who fought Soo Hyun, to quickly destroy Soo Hyun and Maxman so as not to thwart their plans. Soo Hyun tells Maxman that the Lichs also have kings, and that in order to summon their kings, one way is to pay tribute to other people's lives. These Lich guys are trying to pay tribute to the lives of royal soldiers to summon Lich's king here, and their plans are exposed by Soo Hyun. They are not afraid of being exposed by Soo Hyun. Maxman loses his temper when he learns that the leashes have destroyed the king and controlled the king's body as a puppet for a long time. Not only that, but the leeches also want to use the lives of royal soldiers to summon the King of Light. Maxman attacks the leashes and vows to destroy them. An explosive battle ensued, however. Maxman was controlled by anger, so Soo Hyun used the divine flames to attack leashes, and he succeeded in scaring leashes. Soo Hyun reminds Maxman to calm down because he is the captain of this battle. Soo Hyun also offers to help Maxman if Maxman trusts him. The divine flames successfully threatened the leashes and made them panic. Soo Hyun reminds Captain Maxman to prepare for battle, but Maxman doesn't seem ready. He's unsure of his abilities until Soo Hyun reminds Maxman about choosing to defend the castle or protect the soldiers. Only then did Maxman wake up and raise his spirits to fight. After assigning work to Maxman, Soo Hyun did his duty and broke the castle. Only then could stop the plan of the leashes. The leashes were surprised by Soo Hyun's unexpected actions. They didn't expect that Soo Hyun would destroy the castle. The Lich leader was so angry. He adjusted his formation and divided the task among the other leash, one of whom was tasked with guarding the shrine to continue summoning the king of the leash. But as soon as Lich left to protect the shrine, he was stopped and destroyed by Soo Hyun. Soo Hyun split the light in half and made him unable to come back to life again. This made the leader of the Lich even more angry. He raised his voice and scolded Soo Hyun for being arrogant and attacked Soo Hyun. The leader realized that when Soo Hyun used divine flames, he would reduce his mana, but Soo Hyun wasn't scared, and he also confirmed that what this Lich said was not wrong. Then Soo Hyun showed Lich his true ability. Soo Hyun attacked Leash without using mana. Outside the castle, the soldiers still didn't understand what happened inside the castle. Suddenly, a lich appears. He summons monsters and controls the monsters to attack the royal soldiers. Realizing that he was the leader of the monsters, the royal soldiers focused on attacking him. Suddenly, Luke hears someone calling his name. It's Captain Maxman. Luke is relieved that Maxman is still alive and doesn't seem to be hurt. Maxman divides the work among the team members. However, Luke offers to assist behind Maxman, and the royal team will not let Maxman fight alone. Inside the castle, Soo Hyun is fighting fiercely with the strongest lich. The lich can't believe that he has been practicing for hundreds of years. Even his skills haven't been defeated by anyone, but now he can only watch Soo Hyun destroy him. In the end, Soo Hyun succeeded in destroying the lich. Before the lich was destroyed, he also threatened Soo Hyun was just wasting time because there were many people who wanted to summon the Lich King. However, Soo Hyun calmly responded, he will also destroy the Lich King the same way he destroyed this lich. There was only one last lich left. Soo Hyun quickly went to find him to destroy, at this time, outside the castle. The lich used magic to hurt the royal soldiers, but Maxman couldn't do anything to him because he was in the air. At this point, Soo Hyun suddenly appeared and gave Lich a fatal blow. Captain Maxman was overjoyed when Soo Hyun appeared. Just a little more delay, and their situation would have turned bad. After the lich was attacked by Soo Hyun, it was very angry. It used its attendants as a barrier to protect itself. Not only that, it also released its own energy to prepare for the final attack. Soo Hyun wanted to destroy Leash's life stone before he started his final attack. However, Leech knew his weakness, so he used his life to place a curse to protect the life stone. The only way to break the curse is to destroy Leash. Soo Hyun can still destroy Lich, but if he lasts too long, there will be many soldiers destroyed. Realizing that Soo Hyun's situation isn't good, Maxman tells Soo Hyun not to worry. Soo Hyun's task is to destroy Leech, and Maxman will protect the soldiers. Maxman then used his ultimate skill, which would break down any dark elements on the host within the range it protected, its only drawback being corrosion to Maxman's lifespan. Soo Hyun finishes off the last lich and teaches him a lesson before he disappears. The match is over, and the monster's lich summons also disappear. Song Kyung-tae, chairman of the Awakened Management Agency, was furious when he received information from his subordinates that in 3 months there would be a dungeon in Anyang City and that it would cause an explosion. Lee Jo-ho was silent at Kyung-tae's anger. Kyung-tae said that no one could guess the exact time the dungeon appeared, and he didn't believe that the dungeon would cause an explosion that would plunge Anyang City into chaos. Jo-ho says that this cannot be taken lightly because past dungeons aren't normal. They continue to argue about the matter, but when Jo-ho says that this is Soo Hyun's information, though Kyung-tae still pretends to know nothing because he doesn't want to be responsible for the incident. After the battle with the monsters, it took Maxman a lot of time and effort to rebuild the country and the castle. Soo Hyun also stayed behind to support Maxman, but as soon as everything was better arranged, Soo Hyun said goodbye to everyone and left. In the hospital, the doctor scolded Soo Hyun for being too active while his body was injured, but Soo Hyun was awakened so his body healed faster than normal people. After that, Soo Hyun received some medicine and medical supplies and left the hospital. However, the doctor carefully bandaged Soo Hyun's injured arm even though it wasn't very heavy for Soo Hyun. As soon as he came out of the hospital door, Soo Hyun met Jo-ho. Jo-ho asked about Soo Hyun's health, and then they talked about the dungeon in Ansong. 12 months later, the week before Christmas, an Abyss Terror bulletin board reported on a dump guild terror in Anyang. The news quickly spread widely after Jo-ho verified to the interviewer that the news was accurate on television. Kyung-tae's so angry when he sees Jo-ho using the media to cause him such trouble. He curses at Soo Hyun because Soo Hyun is the cause of everything. He demands to bring Soo Hyun to him at all costs, but Soo Hyun has been hiding in Abyss for the past month, so Kyung-tae can't do anything to Soo Hyun. Soo Hyun spent a month practicing his mana absorption ability in the tower. He used all his points to buy the catalyst and used it to practice his mana absorption skill. Dong Young is furious when he hears that an awakened learned about the Dump Guild, but he also tarnishes the reputation of the Dump Guild. Then Dong Young drags Hakjun to investigate Soo Hyun, who is behind this incident. On the street, a group of bandits are whining that Christmas is so deserted that they can't harvest anything. Suddenly, Soo Hyun puts on a mask and stands behind the leader. Soo Hyun threatens him, and then a huge explosion occurs, which scares the bandits and makes them run away. Soo Hyun engulfed everything in flames, but he didn't actually burn them by using the divine flames and changing the flame color. Later, Dewey and some awakened came to stop Soo Hyun's terrorist act, but Soo Hyun wasn't afraid and challenged them to fight quickly so as not to waste his time. All the awakened attacked Soo Hyun at the same time, as requested by Soo Hyun. They were all B-level awakened and above. However, that wasn't enough. Dewey was eventually forced to fight Soo Hyun. After fighting Soo Hyun in the air for a while, Dewey realized that his level was no match for Soo Hyun, even if Dewey and all the awakened present attacked Soo Hyun at the same time. Then he asked one of the awakened in the group to return to the headquarters to call all the awakened they had in preparation to attack Soo Hyun. The awakened is furious. He curses at Soo Hyun for fighting superficially and refusing to fight kindly with him. The guy next to the awakened exclamation that Soo Hyun was really strong. He also learned that Soo Hyun had crossed the first floor in less than 2 years. They were all not qualified to fight Soo Hyun. Dewey had to reconsider the fact that Soo Hyun's current strength had surpassed S level, and they were incapable of fighting Soo Hyun. Dewey then ordered the awakened to stop fighting to wait for reinforcements. After waiting for a while, the support team also arrived. They were the ACT team that gathered high-level awakened. Dewey warns them that Soo Hyun is really strong. He's even stronger than the ACT captain, Youngyu, an S-level awakened. However, Youngyu is still very casual. He orders the team to fight first and he will not act until the defeat fails. Soo Hyun realizes that Youngyu is no different. His personality is still as arrogant as when he was Soo Hyun's teacher. So Soo Hyun wants to test himself if Youngyu's teaching skills are as good as before. Then all the members of the ACT rush to fight Soo Hyun. They increased their speed and ran in a circle around Soo Hyun. This strange action puzzled the awakened who were watching the match. Dewey explained that the ACT team was just using speed to distract Soo Hyun. In that circle, they would attack Soo Hyun at the same time, and Soo Hyun would have trouble dodging attacks and fighting back. It is a fully supported combinatorial attack with tremendous power. It can defeat very strong individuals and monsters. One of the members of the ACT team took the initiative to attack first. But what surprised everyone more was that Soo Hyun successfully dodged the attack. The members of the ACT team were very calm, because as they expected, after Soo Hyun dodged that attack, he would lose his balance, and that's when the ACT team caught him. While the ACT team is excited because they thought they had caught Soo Hyun, behind the smoke, the person arrested was their teammate. At this point, Youngyu couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and fought Soo Hyun. Youngyu said that if he had met Soo Hyun before, he would have invited Soo Hyun to work with him. But unlike Youngyu expected, after hearing Dewey announce that all awakened had been assembled, Soo Hyun surrendered. While Youngyu was skeptical, Soo Hyun said that they shouldn't waste their energy on pointless battles, and they need to focus on something more important. Then in the sky appeared a green hole. It was a green dungeon. This dungeon was about to explode, and they couldn't predict how much damage this dungeon would cause. Soo Hyun finally collects his flames. Just as Dewey predicted that the fire that engulfed Anyang City was caused by Soo Hyun's power. At this time, Soo Hyun takes off his mask and tells the truth to all the awakened who are there. He calls on them to fight with him to protect Anyang City because Soo Hyun knows this dungeon is the catalyst that threatens the whole world. From the dungeon gate, the monsters came out one after another. At this time, everyone was aware of the current situation, and a green dungeon explosion took place. A monster attacks and awakens while he is still surprised. Luckily, Yeogyu protects him in time, and Yeongyu also reminds him to come to his senses if he doesn't want to be destroyed. Soo Hyun is relieved and leaves the monsters for Yeogyu and the ACT team to handle, while he will fight the boss of this dungeon. Aegolas has appeared. It is the boss of this dungeon, and Soo Hyun will be the one to directly handle it. Dewey assists the Awakened to evacuate the people to safety. The chaotic situation in front of him distracts Dewey. From behind Dewey, a monster appears, but Yeongyu destroys it before it can attack Dewey. Yeongyu advises Dewey to calm down and focus on one thing, is help the Awakened evacuate the people to safety, while Yeongyu will destroy the monsters so that Soo Hyun can fight the boss of the Green Dungeon. This is Soo Hyun's second time fighting Aegolas. However, it is still harder to destroy than Soo Hyun thought. Just as Soo Hyun predicted, this Aegolas was harder to deal with than usual. For now, Soo Hyun still has more chances to destroy it than in his previous life. In his previous life, because the Green Dungeon explosion appeared suddenly and Soo Hyun had just returned from another dungeon, his strength was limited and couldn't destroy the Aegolas, resulting in 15,000 people being destroyed by Aegolas. Soo Hyun defeated Aegolas with a weapon dedicated to destroying dragons that he bought at the Abyss store. Despite the high price, Soo Hyun is willing to pay for the item because of its great use. After Aegolas was destroyed, its soul appeared, which is the part that Soo Hyun waited for throughout the war. Aegolas' soul asks Soo Hyun who he is that can defeat it. Soo Hyun not only doesn't answer, but he also asks Aegolas' soul back who it is, which causes Aegolas to get confused and release its own energy to attack Soo Hyun. Before the enormous power that Aegolas had just unleashed, Soo Hyun was knocked unconscious by it, and he was swallowed by Aegolas. Joho had just arrived at the scene to assist Soo Hyun when he witnessed this scene of terror. Joho was shocked to see Soo Hyun being swallowed by Aegolas. It is thought that Soo Hyun has been destroyed, but the situation has been reversed. Everything is in Soo Hyun's plan, and Aegolas' act of devouring has helped Soo Hyun increase his strength by reducing his stats to the lowest. When catalyzed by Aegolas, Soo Hyun will gain the Immortal Hero, which will help Soo Hyun increase his strength. Soo Hyun is satisfied, thanking Aegolas for helping him get stronger. Aegolas' soul watched in amazement as Soo Hyun slowly broke free of its strong teeth. He still wonders because he doesn't know who Soo Hyun is, but with the current situation, he can be sure that Soo Hyun is his opponent. He also didn't know why he was one with Aegolas, now that Soo Hyun was in attack mode with Aegolas. After possessing hero undying skills, Soo Hyun's strength has increased so much. Now his body feels like a feather. Soo Hyun uses all his strength to attack Aegolas repeatedly, but with its sturdy skin, Soo Hyun's attacks barely hurt it. Changing tactics, Soo Hyun focused on finding Aegolas' weakness, eventually discovering a hole in its body. A powerful attack hit the hole. Not only Soo Hyun also helped the soul inside Aegolas awaken. Soo Hyun reminded Falcon it was time to come to his senses. It was the name of the soul inside Aegolas before becoming one with Aegolas. But unlike Falcon expected, after becoming one with Aegolas, Falcon lost control and was devoured by Aegolas. In the end, Falcon is unable to defeat Aegolas. Soo Hyun reminds him that Falcon's current form is disgusting, and those whom Falcon has saved or cannot save certainly don't want to see it. Then, Soo Hyun ended the fight by knocking out Aegolas with a final attack. After Aegolas' body fell to the ground, Soo Hyun asked Falcon if he had regained his memories. Falcon said that he had recalled them all, but his memories were all mistakes and failures. Falcon is a knight of the Tesseract Empire. He tried to defeat the half-dragon Aegolas for a long time, but the elongated war continued to cause damage to the nation. In the end, Falcon used magic to trap him with Aegolas in another dimension. But because of the endless battle between them, Aegolas and him fused together. Even though he tried to escape the dimension, he fought to defeat the Aegolas in his body, but each time, he destroyed innocent people. Soo Hyun comforts Falcon not to care about what is in the past. He reminds Falcon that it is better to focus on protecting what is left, because if Falcon doesn't do so, then there will definitely be more people destroyed. Thanks to Soo Hyun's comforting words, Falcon's problem was also resolved. Falcon thanked Soo Hyun and gave Soo Hyun his own armor, which was the strongest armor in the Tesserum Empire, after which Falcon was satisfied and dissolved. Soo Hyun slept for 3 days after the end of the match. After regaining consciousness, Hakjun invited Soo Hyun to join his guild. At the guild meeting, Dong Young informed the members to prepare themselves to participate in the ranking challenge to become a large guild. Their benefits will increase after being upgraded to a large guild similar to the stipend for the guild. After everyone left, Dong Young asked Hakjun to stay. He beat Hakjun a lot after learning that Hakjun had met Soo Hyun, but Hakjun didn't report it to him. Hakjun tried to explain because he just ran into Soo Hyun and never contacted Soo Hyun, but Dong Young didn't care. He demands that Hakjun invite Soo Hyun to join their guild at all costs. Yeon-sun is helping Hakjun deal with the injuries on his face. She asks Hakjun if these injuries were all caused by Dong Young, but Hakjun says that they were caused by monsters. Yo-sun doesn't trust Hakjun's explanations because she knows full well that monsters can't hurt Hakjun like that. Yo-sun wants Hakjun to stop working for Dong Young. Suddenly, Yo-sun became ill, which caused Yo-sun pain if he didn't take medication. The medicine that can save Yo-sun from pain only Dong Young has, which is why Hakjun still doesn't give up because he doesn't want his beloved to be in pain. Hakjun convinces Soo Hyun to join his guild by all means, but Soo Hyun doesn't agree. Soo Hyun wants to hear Hakjun tell the truth, but Hakjun asks to fight Soo Hyun. If Hakjun loses, he will tell Soo Hyun the truth. But if Soo Hyun loses, Soo Hyun must join Hakjun's guild. Hakjun is the nation's youngest, a rank awakened, and a member of the world-class Heirs Guild. Although he met Hakjun when Soo Hyun was Kim Soo Hyun, Hakjun's personality is completely different person. Hakjun is a very nice person now. He talks more and tries to pretend not to know Soo Hyun whenever Dong Young is present, and he also saves people in the Enyang dungeon explosion. Soo Hyun doesn't understand what made Hakjun change so much, so Soo Hyun wants to find out for himself. Hakjun and Soo Hyun fought each other inside the hospital, which affected other innocent people. Soo Hyun wanted to quickly end the match so as not to damage the hospital. Soo Hyun tries to get a weapon to fight Hakjun, but Hakjun attacks Soo Hyun to stop him because Hakjun knows Soo Hyun is very strong. If Soo Hyun gets the weapon, Hakjun will not be able to defeat Soo Hyun. Hakjun's blow caused Soo Hyun to fly out, so Soo Hyun took the opportunity to lure Hakjun to the battle rooftop, which would reduce the damage to the hospital and avoid injuring innocent people. Despite not getting a good weapon, Soo Hyun is confident in his ability to control his energy. In the first attack, Soo Hyun injures Hakjun. Hakjun used his strongest attack to end the match against Soo Hyun, but after the blow, Soo Hyun remained completely unaffected. Just as Hakjun predicted, he couldn't beat Soo Hyun, so Hakjun told Soo Hyun the truth. Hakjun tells Soo Hyun about Yeon-sun and her illness. Yo-sun is Hakjun's lifeline, and he can't let Yeon-sun pain. Dong Young is the only one who can concoct a medicine that can stop Yeon-sun's pain. So during that time, Hakjun is taken advantage of by Dong Young. Hakjun asks Soo Hyun to help him, and Yeon-sun break free from the shackles that Dong Young creates. But Hakjun is also afraid that he will rely on Soo Hyun and will be controlled by Soo Hyun just like Dong Young did. Hakjun decided to end things on his own and he left. Before leaving, Hakjun didn't forget to thank Soo Hyun for helping him so much. Juho is buying information from a man when he learns that Soo Hyun has just been attacked at the hospital. He is panicked, but Soo Hyun says that everything is fine, and Soo Hyun tells Juho about Hakjun and the Aries Guild. The news that Hakjun attacked Soo Hyun at the hospital was reported all over the TV stations. Yeon-sun was worried about Hakjun, so he called him, but Hakjun didn't answer the phone. Soo Hyun went to Yeon-sun's house to talk to her. Yeon-sun said that she learned that Hakjun attacked Soo Hyun, but she didn't believe that Hakjun was such a person. And Soo Hyun too. He said that Hakjun looked desperate when he came to find Soo Hyun. Maybe this was the order of the Aries Guild. But in the end, Hakjun doesn't ask Soo Hyun for help. He says he'll deal with it on his own, and Soo Hyun can't force Hakjun to do what Soo Hyun wants, which is why Soo Hyun goes to Yoon Sun's house to find out more. Yoon Sun begs Soo Hyun to help Hakjun and not leave Hakjun to fight alone. And that's all Soo Hyun wants to hear. In the general department of the Aries Guild, Hakjun was severely injured by Dong Young. He couldn't defeat Dong Young. Dong Young knew that one day Hakjun would betray him, so he poisoned Hakjun for a long time. Hakjun also learns that Yoon Sun was poisoned, which was also done by Dong Young to force Hakjun to join his guild. While Hakjun is in critical condition, Soo Hyun arrives and he comes to register as a member of the Aries Guild. Dong Young gave Soo Hyun the application and contract, but he still couldn't trust Soo Hyun, and he was also curious why Soo Hyun was able to change his mind so quickly. Soo Hyun said that he is not a good person either. As long as the guild can satisfy his requirements, Soo Hyun can do everything for the guild. To make sure Soo Hyun wasn't lying, Dong Young asked him to sign a contract to join the guild first, and they would talk about the conditions later. After seeing Soo Hyun finish signing the contract, Dong Young was satisfied and continued to talk about the conditions Soo Hyun received for joining the guild. The first condition Soo Hyun wants to be satisfied is to ask Dong Young to detoxify Hakjun. Although not satisfied, Dong Young still fulfills this condition for Soo Hyun. As soon as Hakjun was detoxified, Soo Hyun told Hakjun that he had met Yoon Sun, and he motioned for Hakjun to keep quiet. Dong Young then talked about the second condition. Soo Hyun would receive 70% of the income from dungeon conquest and the position of representing the guild leader. But Soo Hyun didn't agree. He wanted to receive 100% of the income, and also the position of president, which made Dong Young feel funny. While Dong Young was laughing at Soo Hyun and teaching Soo Hyun a lesson about the strong and the weak, from behind Dong Young, Hakjun attacked him with a fatal blow. Hakjun still doesn't understand what happened. He thought he was destroyed by Dong Young's poison. Even when Dong Young detoxified Hakjun's body, he still couldn't feel his body. But when Soo Hyun touched him, he recovered. Hakjun doesn't understand why Soo Hyun is helping him so much. From the first time they met, even now, Soo Hyun says that now is not the time to answer because the fight is not over. Dong Young regained consciousness after Hakjun's sneak attack, and he used his hemostatic skills to restore his strength. Although this battle is 1-on-2, Dong Young doesn't feel to be defeated, but also arrogant, and challenges both Hakjun and Soo Hyun. Later, Dong Young used the green poison skill to protect around him. Hakjun realized this skill, which is the strongest skill Dong Young possesses, can defeat all living things. Hakjun reminds Soo Hyun to be careful while they dodge Dong Young's green poison attack. Soo Hyun realizes that this poison can only affect living objects, so he uses a wooden board to attack Dong Young. But Dong Young's power is not only that. He uses acid to corrode the board, using both green poison and acid to attack living objects and even immovable objects. To counter Dong Young's skill, Soo Hyun used the skilled blood metal spears, and he challenges Dong Young that if Dong Young is strong, dodge all these spears. Both Soo Hyun and Hakjun attacking at the same time made it difficult for Dong Young. However, Dong Young was still very confident in his perfect skills when he could both attack and defend. To Dong Young's arrogance, Soo Hyun only coldly responded even though Dong Young's skill was perfect, but he just burned it. Soo Hyun used the divine flames and burned down the good poison that was protecting Dong Young, and Soo Hyun's fire also injured Dong Young, not lightly. Dong Young is pushed into the path with him to take Yoon Sun to intimidate Hakjun. But this plan is destroyed by Soo Hyun. Soo Hyun touched Dong Young's poison, but not only was he not injured, but also restored mana. In other words, Dong Young's poison had no effect on Soo Hyun, which made Dong Young unbelievable. Treasure of the Charles clan. It's the reward for the 2N floor trial, an item that heals all injuries and dispels all debuffs. However, The item can only be used 5 times. And the last, Soo Hyun wants to use it for Yeon's son. Then Soo Hyun gives it to Hakjun. Hakjun was touched when he received the necklace from Soo Hyun. After Hakjun leaves, Soo Hyun begins to deal with Dong Young. Dong Young feels fear and begins to offer the powers and relationships he possesses to intimidate Soo Hyun not to destroy him. Soo Hyun doesn't care what Dong Young says and threatens Dong Young after learning about Dong Young's relationship with the Dump Guild, the infamous criminal organization. Because the Dump Guild is based in other nations, it still hasn't been able to spread its influence in their country to make the Dump Guild entry into Korea easier. They choose the Aries Guild as their route. After convicting Dong Young, Soo Hyun gives Dong Young a taste of his own poison feelings. The sudden pain made Dong Young unbearable. He screamed loudly and took out the antidote to drink, but Soo Hyun destroyed it. Succumbing to the pain from the poison made by himself, Dong Young jumped upstairs to free himself. Soo Hyun ended things by blowing up Aries headquarters. Yeon Sun was detoxified, and Hak Jun was delighted to see it. He also realized a lesson that he can't do everything alone because Hak Jun has been helped by many people, so now he also wants to help others. In January 2023, the Aries Guild disbanded, and all media channels were covered with the information of the Aries Guild. Kyung Tae is talking about Soo Hyun's crimes. He infiltrated the guild headquarters and destroyed the guild owner, and then destroyed the building. Soo Hyun didn't get it wrong. He also pointed out that Dong Young being destroyed was appropriate because he had committed a lot of crimes. Kyung Tae knew that, but he didn't stop the Aries Guild, but just watched them. Soo Hyun doesn't give in to Kyung Tae, and he emphasizes that he helped Kyung Tae clean up a mess. Kyung Tae said that even if the Aries Guild did wrong, Soo Hyun had no right to judge them. Kyung Tae also said that Soo Hyun went too far. He was swallowed up by the shadow of the hero's title. After the collapse of the Aries Guild, public opinion covered Soo Hyun everywhere. But Soo Hyun fled before the discussions erupted because he didn't want to be troublesome. Hak Jun is walking when he meets Joho. They haven't seen each other for a month, and Hak Jun asks about Juho's situation. Juho lamented that he needed more time to handle the work. He had to constantly go to the guilds to manage the awakened, but also had to go to the trial tower and clean up the dungeon. Juho didn't have enough time to deal with all the work. The two of them are talking when Soo Hyun appears. Hakjun and Juho scold Soo Hyun for being late, but Soo Hyun says that he has to visit his mother so he can't come in time. Then, Soo Hyun shows them an item he received after cleaning the 10th floor, which is the egg of a divine beast. Soo Hyun says that the egg has been unresponsive since Soo Hyun conquered the 20th floor, and Hak Jun and Juho advise Soo Hyun to find an expert to better understand. Song Hae Yoonki, an awakened rank S, knows the holy beast very well, but they can't guarantee whether Hunki will accept to help them. Soo Hyun sent an invitation to cooperate with Hae Yoonki on the community message. After carefully investigating Soo Hyun's information, Hyunki was also very curious about Soo Hyun after learning that Soo Hyun was going through procedures to evaluate the S rank. Rumors that Soo Hyun was re-evaluating the S rank spread everywhere. The journalists gathered early, and as soon as Soo Hyun came out, they came to ask Soo Hyun, but Soo Hyun didn't answer those questions. He showed them the divine beast egg and told those who are knowledgeable about it to contact him. Soo Hyun quickly leaves after achieving his goal. Soo Hyun officially entered the examination. He only allowed Hakjun and Juho to enter and kicked out all the other guilds and rep orders. I also didn't miss the chance to witness Soo Hyun's power limits, so he was directly involved in evaluating the process. Soo Hyun entered the test using virtual technology, and the test began. Soo Hyun's ability to conquer dungeons will be tested to see if he qualifies for promotion to S level. Not only will Soo Hyun's fighting skills, but also his ability to survive adversity, physical resistance, and attack, and even his mental resilience also be tested in the process, endurance and composure, vision, judgment, and grit. In the first test, The purpose was to assess the survival of the awakened Soo Hyun passed it easily, despite being attacked by monsters. Dai looked at Soo Hyun's stats in amazement after completing the first test, because there weren't too many people who could complete it. He was looking forward to Soo Hyun's second test. After finishing test number 1, test number 2 immediately appeared in time for Soo Hyun to rest. In this round, the goal is to test experience and ability to control magic. To complete this challenge, Soo Hyun must destroy the core of the monsters. Otherwise, no matter how many times they destroy them, they will still resurrect. Soo Hyun has to use magic, endurance, speed, precision, and concentration, and he has to use all of those skills and combine them perfectly. Each monster is destroyed by Soo Hyun one by one, but there is not much time, so Soo Hyun must quickly end the match. The second test ended. Jo-ho doubted asked Hak-jun if Hak-jun really wanted to fight Soo Hyun. Hak-jun shuddered after seeing Soo Hyun's results because he had no choice at the time. Suddenly, the connection on the screen flickered off, causing everyone to be confused. Then Soo Hyun also came out of the test. But before coming out of the test, inside the challenge, Soo Hyun talked to a mysterious monster. Guess what happened to Soo Hyun when he was inside the test? Did Soo Hyun face some mysterious force? Please predict the results in the comments section below. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe buttons to support your channel.